You see, the missing puzzle to why Black people in America are still trapped in the mindset of America, why they're still stuck in this trap of thinking and feeling like they're American, is because you don't Africa, the continent of Africa has never extended that hand to Black people around the world. Let's just focus on America. Africa has never extended its hand to Black people in America saying, hey, we support you. Hey, come home. Hey, we'll set you up. Hey, return. Like, Africa has never made that connection. Africa, like the rest of the world, doesn't even view Black Americans as Africans. Africans don't welcome Black Americans. You hear an African speaking of Black Americans, they call them akata, which is a slur. It's almost like calling them a nigger. Nigger, not a nigger. You hear an African speaking about Black Americans, they call them akatas. So it's this concept of, like, as an African, you don't see Black people in this country as yours either. So then how do we now fault Black Americans for having no connection to the African continent? America has done a great job of making sure Black people in this country have no connection to Africa. But if Africans were still calling Black America, then there's hope for them to actually see them and see their connection to the African continent. But when now America has made sure Black people don't see any connection to the African continent, the African continent has not done anything to make sure African Americans see themselves connected to the home. And then you wonder, and then now Africans, you look at it like, and you wonder why the continent is still in such a dire situation. The African continent right now, as far as I'm concerned, is under a curse. You cannot explain how the richest continent on this planet is the poorest continent on this planet. Like, you cannot ignore that. Africa is the richest continent on this planet with every resource. You go down the list, Africa got everything. Yet you check the continent, go down the list of the things Africa doesn't have. You cannot be the richest continent in the world, but have the poorest populations in the world. Not just poor like you're broke. No, you are detestably poor. You are freaking poor. You are dirty poor. That is madness in itself. And the African continent doesn't stop to check what's going on. Why? Because it doesn't make sense. But you see, you can't look at this world from a physical perspective. You have to always remember to look at this world through spiritual eyes. There's a reason for everything. And the reason Africa has not moved forward is because it is still under a curse. What kind of a curse? Your children cannot be stolen from you. And you just give no fucks. For lack of a better word, I'm trying to stop cursing, but that's true. That's why we call it Mama Africa. Now, you cannot be a mother. You have your baby stolen and you just don't care. As a mother myself to 3 boys, you cannot steal one of my children and I'll just be like, cool. Like, even with 2 children left over, I am still totally distraught. I'm destroyed, really, from having lost one. I have 3 boys. You kidnap one. I'm still spending any time, energy, finding that one that's missing, looking to bring him home, him or her, whoever, just any situation. As a mother, as a parent, you have one of your children stolen, kidnapped, you are not just going to quit. That's like, one of my kids are stolen, and I just like, fuck that one anyways. At least I got these 2 left. No, you're grateful you have these 2 left, but your mind is still on that one that got away. Africa's curse is that your babies were stolen and you just, fuck those ones anyways. And you think God is like cool with that? You think God is proud of that character? That's why it's Mama Africa. So you cannot be a mother and your children are stolen, taken, destroyed, beaten in front of your face. In front of your face. This is not something that is just a mystery and it's a secret and nobody knows the story. The whole world, worldwide, knows the story. That's why, as far as I'm concerned, the African continent is the least respected continent. Subconsciously, the world is looking at that shit like that's detestable. You cannot have your children stolen and you just like don't care. And it's one thing that you don't care, but now when you're faced with one of these children, every second you get all you want to do is tear them down, talking about they're not worthy. You call them akatas. You call them distraught human beings. Basically, I'm African. I know how Africans look at Black Americans. So if an African is looking at Black Americans through these lens, how is an African American supposed to feel connected to Africa when this is how Africa views it? So now they're in America. How are they supposed to see themselves connected to anything outside of America when where they're supposed to be connected to, home, does not acknowledge them, does not welcome them, does not respect them? So Black Americans are in this space between a rock and a hard place where, yeah, they know they're not comfortable in America, but they have no other option other than America because they don't see Africa as an option. They don't see Africa as a connection. You tell them they're African, they'll be ready to fight you on some, like, you disrespected them by calling them an African, which is so sad and unfortunate. But I don't blame the situation because I understand. I've been in this country long enough to see the setup as to how it will get to that point. But the reason it really got to that point is because they had no hand telling them, no, F what America is telling you guys, this is home for you guys. So that way, even when they're fighting in America, they still know that there's something bigger for them. But if they're fighting in America and they see no, like, outward connection, that's why you talk to Black Americans, they're always fighting for America. Like, they're fighting to still remain here. They're fighting to try and rule here. Like, America is not yours, and it will never be. You will never, like, win in this country. You're never going to, like, I hate to say it that way, but as Black people in this country, if you ever get ahead, you are still only getting ahead under how white people let you get ahead. You are never running anything in this country. You're not. They've tried it in the past with their Black Wall Street and this and that, and America still showed you, like, who are you guys to think you are, like, worthy to run anything here? Came, blew the whole shit up. They have terrorized every kind of Black community that was trying to move up and just do things for themselves independently. America is not going to let you, Black people, be independent of them, which is the goal for a people. You cannot, Black people in this country are just chasing independence. And the kind of independence they're chasing is not an independence for self. It's just an independence for white people to let them participate in their shit, which is the problem with why Black people in this country have never really moved forward significantly. You've gotten crumbs here and there, of course. Great, you're in the suburbs with white people. Great, you're in the farms with white people. Great, you're in the offices with white people. But you still have no real ownership of anything in this country. But I understand how that is the situation because Africa has never opened a door for them to say, hey, you don't need ownership over here where you are not wanted, neither do you belong there, because home is your ownership. But Africa has never extended that hand. All Africa shows is akata. All Africans show African Americans is, no, we don't want you. So how is that a winning situation for neither? Because now you look at Africa, not one continent on this world respects Africa. The only people that respect Africans are Africans ourselves because we know the real shit with our continent. We know what we do. We know what Africa really is. We do. Regardless of whether the world sees us as third world countries and that, we know what we do in Africa. Are there hard times? Are there hard places? Beyond imagination, of course. But we know the good of our home. We know the strength. So we know what is always portrayed in the news is not the legit story. So it doesn't bug us that much. It bugs African Americans more because, like I said, they have no connection to that. So to also, all they know is what they're shown in the news. So for somebody to tell them, hey, this is you guys and this is your home, it is insulting to them. It makes them feel a type of way. So I don't blame them. But the fault I really still see as Africans. Number one, you haven't changed your narrative. The whole world is still telling your story for you as to how you guys are nothing but huts everywhere and people dying everywhere and children. Every time you see a child, they got flies flying around their face. So Africa has not changed its narrative because all the African continent wants to do is keep up with white too. But you have your own whole continent to yourself. That's just more ludicrous of a situation to me than the Black situation in America. At least Black people are in white man's land. You can't be a whole African continent with your own whole, like, you have your whole space to yourself to do what you want to do. Yet you're still looking across the world trying to be white, trying to do what white does. It's just ludicrous, man. That's a whole different subject. A whole different, like, I can go down a long hole with that one. And that's not what I'm trying to get into. But it's just for Africans to realize, like, if we do not extend a hand out to all the Africans that are misplaced across this globe, the continent and the situation of Africa is not going to change. Africa is under a curse for a reason. Africa is under a real curse for a reason, because you cannot have your baby stolen from you, ravaged from you, and you just don't care. You just don't care. Not that you don't, and then on top of that, not that you don't care, you have the nerve to now also start pointing the finger at them like they are not yours. How is the world supposed to respect you as an African continent? You will never see Chinese people really getting down like that. You're not going to, like, you just won't. You won't see the Asian continent getting down like that. You won't see Mexican continent getting down like that. With the Mexicans, you see the Mexicans that are Americanized, they're the ones who look down on like the other Mexicans. Talking about they're coming over here illegally. Like, really check your history, because I'm pretty sure all this is yours. You're just letting white people tell you what to do, and you are really letting them tell you you are an illegal person unless you get their papers to your land. Come on now. That's another subject for another video. But you don't see any other nation getting down like that. It's when you come to the African nation that only Africa wants to down its own brothers and sisters and children, calling them all types of slurs and names. And then you wonder why no one in the world can also respect an African continent. How can they, when we don't respect ourselves as Africans? You cannot have your children scattered all over the world and you just don't care. And instead, all you do is spend your time trying to be white, trying to be like white, when look at what white has done to the whole African continent. So I don't blame Black people for not having that connection. I don't, because I understand. Like I said, I've been out here long enough to see how things have ended up the way it has. This really boils down to the African continent. You cannot just turn the cheek and turn a blind eye to a situation that, if you don't deal with it, nobody can respect us. And if the mother doesn't care, God is not respecting that. God, like, I gave you these babies got stolen, and you just, don't give it down. And you end up talking trash on them. God has no respect for that. So guess what? He will make sure the world has no respect for you either. So the Black condition in America is really significantly tied to the African continent, whether both sides realize it or not. This needs this, and this needs this to be free. It's just that simple.